You see how they're in line? They're called the marching trees. So the idea of the regiments marching off to the war. Come around here. So all the benches along here, you'll notice, are all dedicated to different arms within the Canadian Forces or different groups. The Air Force, the Navy, those sorts of things. So if you look at them, they're all to do with military. So all these trees here have been planted for the 100th anniversary of the Canadian Air Force. So we're actually going to go to the Air Force Memorial that was just put in because this is the 100th anniversary of the Canadian Air Force. Right up here. And you'll see there's plaques. That's the War of 1812. Of course, Barrie was important in the War of 1812 because supplies would go through Barrie up to Fort Willow and then from there into Midland and Winnipeg. Yep. Fighting in the Great Lakes. So they've done a great job on these plaques. They've tried to do connections to Barrie or Innisfil to keep it sort of close. This is beautiful in here. This is brand new. This is the memorial for the Royal Canadian Air Force. So if you look in here, they've done this, and the reason is because the air show flies right over here so they can see it, and if you look at the benches, those are all parts from planes.
Well, that's neat.
So they've done all the different parts to the plane. So I think that's really, really interesting. They did a really nice job on that. So love it. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Now this is blacked out because I think they must be doing another sort of memorial here or something here. But this commemorates the planting of the trees here. And Base Borden, which isn't very far from here, of course, there was an air base in World War I. We didn't have our own Air Force until 1924, but there were Canadians flying. First, Billy Bishop's probably our most famous World War I pilot. But Base Borden actually had a lot of pilots trained out of there. And in World War II, actually, there was a bomber of Australians that crashed right on Big Bay Point, and they were all killed. So they were still flying in World War II training out of Base Borden. So if you look along here, there's plaques, Mackenzie Rebellion, there's the Fenian Raids, the Northwest Rebellion, and the South African War. And what's really interesting is for the Northwest Rebellion, this is actually the Simcoe and County Foresters going out of Barrie, and they went out to Manitoba. So that's actually the regiment. So if you go down to the Simcoe and Forester Museum, you'll see that picture. The other one that's interesting is this is the South African War. The first Canadian to be killed fighting for the Canadian military was this guy, and he was killed in the South African War. And this actual memorial is in the church downtown, the Presbyterian, right across from the library downtown. So he was the first Canadian to die in the South African War. So again, so kind of a local connection. If you look in here, these are shell craters and trench lines to symbolize World War I and II. And what's really interesting, you come here in the spring and they have poppies and tulips, but they're planted so that it's almost like somebody fell in these different positions. It's actually quite emotional when you see it.
Do you do something in the spring, or is it just you catch it?
No, they just come up. They're just beautiful, but the way they put them in, it gives you a sort of an idea of kind of where men had fallen if they were in the field. So if we come down here, I think this is the only Victoria Cross memorial in Canada. And so this is all the Victoria Cross recipients that Canada's had. And it starts this side, the first medal Victoria Cross recipient was in the rebellion of 1857 in India. And what's really interesting, this William Hall, he's a black soldier from Nova Scotia. Got our first Victoria Cross. And if you see here is the Boer War, Second Boer War, and then it starts with the First World War here, and then this side is all World War I and over here. So there's 72 men that received Canada's highest medal, and then the Second World War is there. And what's really interesting is the youngest Canadian to win the Victoria Cross is Tommy Ricketts from Newfoundland. And there are 3 men from the same street of Manitoba, and it was called Pine Street. All 3 men from the same street all got Victoria Crosses, and that street now is called Valor Road. It's pretty amazing.
And the Victoria Cross is for what?
That's the highest medal you can win, usually for bravery, yeah, or leadership.
Yep.
And you have to be nominated for that. So there's only 72 from World War I. If you think 620,000 men went, only 72 received it. And a lot of these men received it after death. And of course, Billy Bishop, most people know about Billy Bishop, and of course it says here, William Bishop right here. And he was from Holland Sound, and he was Canada's best pilot in World War II. He got 72 kills. Yeah, so I just think that's really
neat, yeah.
a beautiful, it's just interesting and it's different. Because we do have a cenotaph downtown, which has all the local men, but this is specific for the Victoria Cross. So I think it's really interesting. Okay, so we just come down here, and we've got 3 beds, and if you look, there's a mural for each one. Those are poppies, tulips, and vimeo. So they've got sort of the symbols for the wars. And all these beds in the spring are filled with red tulips, all donated from the government of the Netherlands as a thank you to Canada. So they're absolutely beautiful. So that one is about the vimeo. This plaque is about the tulips, and it talks about why the Netherlands gives Canada tulips and the story about us liberating the Netherlands, as well as the royal family. Of course, the Queen of the Netherlands was in Canada, and she had a baby, and they said, well, we can't have a child not in the Netherlands to be the next monarch. And they said, well, the hospital room that you're born in is the Netherlands. The only time the Canadian government's ever had a flag other than Canada, they had the Netherlands flag. So as a thank you, we got 100,000 tulips, and of course recently we just got 1 million, and they went right across Canada. And so in here and along this line here, they have tulips from the Netherlands. It's absolutely beautiful in the spring. And another cute little story is my daughter and I went to the Netherlands. We got a box of 100 tulips. We brought them home. We gave away 90. We had 10 left. And I said to my daughter, what should we do? She said, let's plant them here. So if you come here, you'll see all red tulips. In the very back, you see some white ones. And that's my daughter. Yeah, come. All right. So this one is Canada's most decorated Indigenous soldier of World War I. Francis Pegahama-Gabo. He is not from Barrie, he's from Parry Sound. But when they did this, his family came, and there were all 35 people here, and they were in tears. And they were so thankful that somebody had a plaque for him. And actually at the the Barrie, we always have big banners, and we have his banner at the waterfront. So it's actually,
They recognize him.
well, this must have been, well, this opened in 2017, so it must have been around then. Yeah. But yeah, his family was here, and apparently they were all in tears. I wasn't here, but someone said that. They were just so thankful. It's really beautiful. Yeah. And then, so if you come around here, this is kind of interesting. We have a lot of ceremonies here for the military. Last post on Remembrance Day is beautiful here, because you can hear it across the lake. But if you look here, the sand here represents Dieppe and Juno Beach. So the far one is Dieppe, and this one is Juno Beach. And the reason is there's no stone there. As I said, you should put stone because Dieppe is stone. But they said they're worried that people would throw the rocks, so they meditated both sand. So these are supposed to represent the Canadians landing at those beaches. And it's kind of where it is. It's cool because it's sort of on the lake. How are you? And you can see the outskirts of the roundhouse here. It shows you sort of the edge of it. And of course the trains came in and they worked on them here. Watch yourself. We're almost done. Over here, just watch yourself. Over here are plaques for Juno Beach. Yep. The HMCS Barrie, which was built in Collingwood, it was a Corvette, and the Canadian Navy. So the only plaque, I think they need a plaque here for the Canadian Air Force. And what's missing in this park is they don't have one for Korean War, and they don't have one for Afghanistan and peacekeeping. And I think they should put a peacekeeping one right by that garden, because it would be very beautiful, and they need to have a Korean one. Because they get Korean vets saying, well, what about us? You know, they just miss that. So we're gonna rectify that. Yeah. And the only last thing is, if you look over there, that symbolizes the Air Force. Of course, the red maple leaf in the middle, the white, and of course, when the air show went over, they flew right over the top. So it's pretty. I think it's a really well thought out actually park. It's not glorifying war, but it's also remembering, and it just done a nice job with imagery. And a lot of people go by, don't even know what it is, you know. So that's why something like this is great. So you can
It's an eye opener. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.